We continue our reading of Lest We Forget, a daily devotional by author George R. Knight. Today's reading, November 1, Protestant Mission Explosion. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world so that all nations will hear it, and then finally the end will come. Matthew 24:14. World missions stood at the heart of 19th century Protestant Christianity. The modern mission movement began in 1792 when William Carey published an inquiry into the obligation of Christians to use means for the conversion of the heathens. That might not seem so revolutionary to us, but it was in 1792. The next year saw the establishment of the first missionary society for sponsoring foreign missionaries and the sending of Carey to India, where he worked for 7 years without an Indian convert. But even though his efforts began slowly, they rooted themselves firmly. By the time of his death in 1834, Carey had not only established a strong Christian church in India, but he had fathered the modern mission movement that would take Protestantism around the world. The first great wave of Protestant mission to the world peaked in the 1830s, but it didn't stop there. Rather, it increased in magnitude during the latter part of the century. Kenneth Scott LaTourette has labeled the 19th century as the great century of Protestant missions, while Sidney Alstrom, a leading student of American church history, has noted that the closing 2 decades of the 19th century witnessed the climactic phase of the foreign mission movement in American Protestantism. One of its main stimulants was the student volunteer movement for foreign missions, which grew out of an appeal by evangelist Dwight L. Moody in 1886 for college students to devote their lives to mission service. 100 took their stand that first year. That number increased to 2,200 in 1887. And within a few years, many thousands of young people had pledged their lives to mission service. The movement's motto was the evangelization of the world in this generation. It stimulated, claims Ernest R. Sandine, the greatest demonstration of missionary interest ever known to the United States. As a result, American Protestants began to see such places as Africa, China, and Japan as their spiritual provinces. Such a movement did not catch Adventists sleeping. God had opened the way through the Protestant initiative, and the Seventh-day Adventist would rapidly reach out to every nation and kindred and tongue and people with the message of the 3 angels. This concludes our reading today of Lest We Forget.